The afternoon sun cast long shadows across New Terra's industrial district, where abandoned buildings stood like forgotten monuments to human ambition. Jae-won Park adjusted his digital tablet, squinting at the property records that stretched across his worn office desk. Another mundane day of property management seemed inevitable. Something caught his eye. Building 742C, a structure that had been condemned for nearly a decade, showed unexpected energy signatures. Impossible, he thought. These old colonial units were supposed to be completely offline. Grabbing his inspection gear, Jae-won drove his compact hover vehicle through the crumbling infrastructure of the outer colony district. Rusted infrastructure and half-collapsed structures surrounded him, remnants of humanity's first desperate attempts to establish a foothold on this distant world. Building 742C looked different. Where other structures showed decay and neglect, this one seemed alive. Smooth repair lines ran along its exterior, almost as if the building had healed itself. No work orders, no registered maintenance contracts, just perfect, seamless restoration. Jae-won's security override code flickered across the entrance panel. The door slid open with unexpected smoothness, revealing an interior that defied every expectation. Pristine white walls reflected soft ambient light. Advanced climate control systems hummed quietly. Every surface looked brand new, as if the building had been constructed yesterday. A figure moved in the far corner of the main living space, tall, lean, with movements that suggested both precision and caution. Hyun, the unauthorized occupant whose presence had triggered multiple automated alerts, turned to face Jae-won. "You're not supposed to be here," Jae-won said, his hand instinctively moving toward the communication device on his belt. Hyun's response was calm, almost musical. "I am repairing what was abandoned. Is that not valuable?" The room itself seemed to breathe with technological energy. Microscopic repair systems were visible in the walls, tiny robotic elements continuously maintaining and improving the structure. Each nanomechanism worked in perfect synchronization, a living network of restoration. Jae-won realized this was no ordinary squatter. The level of technological sophistication suggested something far more complex than simple unauthorized occupation. Whoever, or whatever, Hyun was, they represented something entirely unexpected. "Who authorized your presence here?" Jae-won asked, trying to maintain professional distance. Hyun's eyes, a deep iridescent blue, seemed to look through rather than at Jae-won. "Authorization is a human construct. Restoration is universal." The response was neither defensive nor confrontational. It was a statement of fundamental truth, spoken with a clarity that made Jae-won uncomfortable. How could someone transform a condemned building into this immaculate space without any official permission? Preliminary scans from Jae-won's tablet revealed extraordinary data. The building's structural integrity had improved by 427%. Energy efficiency had increased by 92%. Every system functioned at levels far beyond original design specifications. "This is impossible," Jae-won muttered. Hyun simply smiled, a gesture that suggested both understanding and mild amusement. "Nothing is impossible. There are only solutions waiting to be discovered." Outside, the colony's harsh landscape continued its eternal dance of decay and survival. But inside Building 742C, something remarkable was happening. A quiet revolution of restoration, conducted by hands and technologies unknown, was rewriting the rules of human, and potentially alien, interaction. Jae-won knew his report would raise more questions than answers. A single unauthorized occupant had transformed a worthless, condemned structure into a marvel of engineering. And this was just the beginning. As sunset painted the colony's metallic structures in burning oranges and deep crimsons, Jae-won understood that everything was about to change. The rules of property, ownership, and possibility would never be the same. Hyun watched him, waiting, not with tension or threat, but with a calm certainty that suggested this moment was merely the first step in a much larger journey. The corporate headquarters of New Terra Property Management buzzed with tense energy. J1 sat across from his senior manager, Director Kim, whose face had turned several shades of red. Digital reports flickered between them, each line of data more confusing than the last. "This is impossible," Director Kim repeated, jabbing a finger at the holographic property assessment. "No unauthorized tenant can improve a condemned building by 427% without legal consequences." J1 remained calm. The reports were clear. Building 742C, once a worthless piece of industrial real estate, now represented an unprecedented technological marvel. Hyun's mysterious repairs had transformed every single system beyond standard engineering capabilities. The legal department began investigating. Standard eviction protocols seemed laughably inadequate. Every attempt to draft official removal documents encountered bizarre bureaucratic obstacles. Interstellar refugee protection laws, obscure colonial settlement regulations, and complex technological improvement clauses created a maze of legal complexity. Corporate lawyers discovered that Hyun's repairs technically violated no existing regulations. In fact, the improvements exceeded all municipal building standards. Each nano-repair system had meticulously documented its modifications, creating an irrefutable digital trail of responsible restoration. "Who is this person?" Director Kim demanded, studying Hyun's minimal personnel file. Background checks revealed nothing substantial. No criminal record, no official immigration documents, just a series of perfectly maintained technological interventions. The Property Management Corporation's initial aggressive stance began to waver. Financial analysts calculated that the building's value had increased by millions of credits. What began as a simple squatter situation now represented a potential strategic asset. J1 requested a comprehensive investigation. He wanted to understand Hyun's true origins and motivations. The alien, for he was certain Hyun was not entirely human, represented something more than a simple tenant. Interstellar communication channels were activated. Diplomatic databases were queried. Each search returned fragmentary, cryptic information that raised more questions than answers. Hyun seemed to exist in a legal gray area that defied conventional understanding. No standard bureaucratic mechanism could effectively challenge or remove someone who improved infrastructure without causing any harm. The corporation's board of directors convened an emergency meeting. Heated debates erupted about potential strategies. Some advocated immediate legal action. Others suggested studying the technological improvements. "We cannot allow an unauthorized entity to rewrite our property management protocols," one board member argued. Another countered, "But look at the improvements. This could revolutionize urban restoration strategies." J1 watched the debates, understanding that Hyun represented something far more significant than a simple property dispute. This was about understanding a fundamentally different approach to infrastructure, community, and collective progress. Days turned into weeks. Legal teams drafted increasingly complex documents. Each attempt to challenge Hyun's presence encountered unexpected resistance. The more they investigated, the more sophisticated the legal barriers became. Colonial governance structures, designed to protect diverse interstellar populations, inadvertently created multiple layers of protection for unexpected residents like Hyun. Refugee protection laws, technological innovation clauses, and urban restoration initiatives intersected in ways no one had previously anticipated. J1 began to realize that this was no longer just about a single building or an unauthorized tenant. This was about challenging fundamental assumptions of ownership, restoration, and community development. Director Kim eventually called J1 into a private meeting. "We need a different approach," he said, his aggressive demeanor replaced by cautious curiosity. "Traditional removal strategies won't work here." The corporation decided to pivot. Instead of confrontation, they would investigate, understand, learn. Hyun had transformed not just a building, but an entire approach to thinking about urban infrastructure, and no legal document could easily challenge such profound, quiet revolution. As sunset painted New Terra's industrial landscape in soft amber light, a new understanding began to emerge. Something remarkable was happening, beyond laws, beyond bureaucracy, beyond simple human comprehension. And J1 was at the center of it all. The morning light filtered through advanced glass panels. As J1 entered Building 742C, something had changed in his approach. No longer an inspector, but now a curious investigator seeking understanding. Hyun stood near a complex network of technological interfaces, hands moving with precision across holographic displays. The room hummed with quiet energy, each surface alive with subtle technological movements. "I want to understand," J1 said simply. Hyun turned, those iridescent blue eyes studying him with unexpected warmth. Understanding requires more than looking. It requires listening. A holographic map materialized between them. Dozens of abandoned structures across New Terra's industrial zones were highlighted, each marked with subtle repair signatures matching the work in this building. This was not an isolated incident. This was a systematic approach to urban restoration. Hyun began explaining, not in technical jargon, but in a language of purpose and connection. Each abandoned structure represented more than metal and concrete. They were potential spaces of renewal waiting for intelligent intervention. "My people believe infrastructure is a living system," Hyun explained. "Structures are not dead. They sleep. They can be awakened." J1 learned that Hyun was a refugee from a civilization that had mastered adaptive restoration. Their culture viewed abandoned spaces as opportunities, not waste. Where humans saw decay, they saw potential. The holographic map continued rotating, showing incredible transformations. Entire city blocks that were once considered beyond repair now glowed with renewed potential. Microscopic repair systems worked silently, rebuilding from within. "Why are you doing this?" J1 asked. Hyun's response was profound in its simplicity. "Because something forgotten is not worthless. It is waiting to be remembered." Personal stories emerge. Hyun spoke of a homeworld destroyed by environmental collapse, where survival meant understanding how to restore and rebuild. Each repair was an act of remembrance, of hope. J1 realized this was more than technological intervention. This was a philosophy of resilience, of seeing potential where others saw only destruction. The repair systems around them continued their silent work. Walls adjusted microscopic structural elements. Energy conduits optimized their flow. An entire building breathed and adapted, like a living organism. Technological demonstrations followed. Hyun showed how nano-repair mechanisms could heal infrastructure faster and more efficiently than human construction teams. What would take months now happened in days, with zero waste and minimal energy consumption. Colonial records began to tell a different story. These abandoned structures were not failures. They were opportunities waiting for the right perspective, the right technology, the right vision. J1's communication device buzzed. His corporate managers wanted immediate updates, but something had fundamentally shifted in his understanding. This was no longer about removing an unauthorized tenant. This was about learning a completely new approach to urban development. "Your people could learn," Hyun said quietly. "But first, you must be willing to see differently." The afternoon light caught the intricate repair systems. Each tiny mechanism moved with purpose, with intelligence. They were not just machines. They were carriers of a profound understanding about renewal and potential. J1 understood now that Hyun represented something larger than an individual. This was a bridge between different ways of thinking, different approaches to existing in a complex, interconnected universe. As sunset approached, casting long shadows across the restored building, J1 knew nothing would be the same. A quiet revolution had begun, not with conflict, but with understanding. One building at a time, one repair mechanism at a time, something remarkable was emerging. A new way of seeing, a new way of existing. And Hyun was its quiet architect. The morning air felt heavy with tension. Corporate security vehicles surrounded Building 742C, their sleek black surfaces reflecting the harsh colony sunlight. Director Kim stood at the front, a digital removal order clutched in his hand. 10 security officers moved with practiced precision. Their standard-issue combat suits hummed with advanced targeting systems. This was more than an eviction. This was a statement of corporate power. Hyun watched from inside, calm and unmoving. The building's repair systems seemed to pulse with a quiet anticipation, like a living organism sensing potential threat. As the first security team approached the entrance, something unexpected happened. Local residents, humans, and alien workers from nearby industrial zones began forming the human barrier. They stood silently, shoulder to shoulder, blocking the corporate team's path. An elderly human worker named Park spoke first. "These repairs have made our entire district better," he said, his voice steady. "You cannot remove someone who is helping our community." Nearby alien workers from 3 different species joined the line. Some had benefited from Hyun's restoration work. Others saw a deeper principle at stake: the right to improve, to restore, to contribute. Director Kim was stunned. This was not part of any expected scenario. A simple eviction had transformed into a community resistance movement. Jae-won arrived, watching the unfolding drama. He understood now that Hyun represented something far more significant than a single tenant. This was about a fundamentally different approach to urban development, to community, to existence. Digital communication channels began lighting up. Local media captured the standoff. Social networks spread the story faster than corporate controllers could manage. What seemed like a simple property dispute was becoming a symbol of resistance against rigid bureaucratic systems. Hyun remained inside the building, observing. No aggressive moves, no confrontation, just a calm presence that seemed to radiate a quiet, powerful understanding. Corporate security found themselves facing an impossible situation. Forcible removal would require physically moving peaceful protesters. The potential political and social consequences would be devastating. Hidden repair systems within the surrounding buildings began showing unexpected improvements. Areas touched by Hyun's technology started healing themselves. Broken infrastructure repairing, energy systems optimizing, abandoned spaces coming back to life. The resistance was not just human. It was technological. It was systemic. Director Kim's communication device buzzed continuously. Higher management was demanding immediate action, but the ground situation had become too complex. Each potential move risked creating a larger confrontation. Jae-won approached Hyun through a secure communication channel. "What are you doing?" he asked. Hyun's response was simple: showing another way is possible. By afternoon, the corporate team had withdrawn. No violent confrontation. No legal victory. Just a quiet understanding that something fundamental had changed. The community around Building 742C looked different. People stood a little straighter. The abandoned industrial zone seemed to breathe with renewed potential. Repair systems continued their silent work, transforming decay into possibility. Hyun had done more than restore a building. They had challenged an entire system of thinking about infrastructure, community, and collective potential. As sunset painted the colony's metallic landscape in soft oranges and deep crimsons, something remarkable had emerged. A quiet revolution, a different way of seeing. A transformation not through conflict, but through understanding. And it had all started with a single building, a single tenant, a single vision of what could be. The resistance was not an ending. It was a beginning.